coming from an artistic background, even at home. So my father was a photographer, one of the leading German architecture photographers, and another part of my life is to promote his work. So I set up a small company that deals with his heritage. And my mother she's still alive, she's an actress. And yeah, I started studying physics, biology and computer science, trying to become a physicist, but later kind of took the wrong turn and ended up in arts. And I started, I grew up in Wolfsburg, which is home of Volkswagen, a very strange place with a similar size like Rijeka, but is totally dominated by the Volkswagen factory, of course, which brings in a lot of money, but also a very strange structure of the city, because every family has one person working in the factory, so it's totally a car-dominated place. And I set up my first artist group there with a friend, Peter Elsner, and we did actually experimental vocal music in a cathedral nearby, where we would just lock us in and do hour-long improvisations of vocal music with tape loops and so on. And later expanded the whole thing to performance, music in general, punk music, all sorts of stuff, architecture. Yeah, after 5 years this cooperation ended. We were taking part of a project called the Bangkok Project with Minus Delta T. It was a performance artist group at the time that we collaborated a lot, and I was kind of doing a lot of stuff with them later. And out of this cooperation came a series of projects actually on Ars Electronica. So we were doing like the main projects on Ars Electronica 86, 89, 90, 91 and 94. It was mainly based around television, trying to transform the one-way communication into a two-way communication system. And today, I mean, there was a huge DFG, German Research Foundation project some years ago, and two universities got a lot of money to find out what did we research that time, and it was basically the foundation of social media as we know it today. It was a different technology, it was mainly television, and the feedback loop was a telephone, computer, fax, all that stuff. But technology doesn't matter so much, so for the main project was on 1992 on documenta 9, and we transformed the 3-sat German television into an interactive installation for 100 days, so doing broadcasting 7 hours a day. And I have a short video that I want to show you, just to bring back the past, and we are already in a time when all things could get forgotten. That's okay, but I think I would like to say we are all dwarfs on the shoulders of giants, like Isaac Newton said. So there's always a history before us and some people doing something after us, and we are just part of that chain. So I show that video, Piazza Virtuale 1992 on documenta 9. It was a huge success at the time. We had more than 100,000 callers per hour every day. And the telephone system in Kassel broke down quite a bit. I repeated that same project in Tokyo, and 1 year later the same thing happened. So it was a big thing. And we got our own satellite from the European Space Agency with an uplink by Deutsche Telekom and so on. It was an immense project. So, reject all.
There it is, as usual, the same program beaming into our living rooms. TV set stares relentlessly at the viewer, and the viewer stares right back. The only thing left to do is to flick the remote control from one channel to the next. Ironically, This is the viewer in the age of media communication, who is condemned to silence, to solitude and passivity. All that matters to the program maker are the ratings, not the viewer. But there is another vision of television in which the viewer is the star of the program. The interactive live TV program, Piazza Virtuale, which was first broadcast from the Documenta 9 exhibition in Kassel. It lasted 100 days and was seen throughout Europe, Japan and North America via satellite.
Hello?
There are 20 telephone lines which connect viewers with each other via the central computer, enabling them to communicate with each other live on the air. The response was overwhelming. There were more than 110,000 callers every hour. But not only by voice. There are also other ways to get onto the TV piazza from home, by using either a modem, picture video phone, fax or touch tone. Everything is generated in the computer and then transmitted back to the viewer's home via satellite. Here on the piazza, the viewer is able to make contact with others, select music or paint, all by using the keypad. This has been made possible thanks to Ponton, which developed a telephone interface. By using this program, the viewer has the chance to learn for the first time about using the telephone as a multifunctional media tool. And it's up to him to decide what happens to the monitor. There is a fascinating game with a robot camera, and the idea is to make it easier for the viewer.
Jetzt diese Richtung.
Gogh TV developed 15 different programs, each with diverse possibilities. The viewers quickly managed to get to grips with various situations. Even the German president, Richard von Weizsäcker, was able to make a live visit.
Okay, that was Piazza Virtuale. On Documenta 9. Important thing is, I'm part of a group called Gogh TV. There's Karel Dudesek, Mike Hens, Salvatore Vanasco, and me as the core team. And of course, like 30 different collaborators, programmers, designers, interface people. So it was really a collective effort, and a lot of interesting problems or questions arise about copyright and all that stuff. But at that time, we just did it and nobody cared. In 1993, three of us were invited by NHK to go to Japan and do the same thing in Japanese. The Macintosh was able to use kanji letters, so the whole system worked actually by just translating the language. And it was also a huge success. I don't want to bother you with the video now. The thing that I find quite interesting is a project we did in 1994, which was called Service Area AI. Our service area was a 3D communication space. I mean, we're talking about a time when not even a browser existed. So the first browser came in 93, 94. So we had to program our own browser, and this browser allowed us to build your own avatar, move that avatar in a 3D communication space, and communicate with other users in that 3D space. And that was broadcasted live on TV. And there was like an augmented reality setup in Linz in Austria, where people on stage could interact with these avatars on space. So I'll show you that video as well.
There it is, as usual.
So one of the tools you'll use most often in this program is called Piazza. Piazza is a...
that cyberspace is little more than the exchange of electronic messages, but if it had a shape, what would it look like? One architectural prototype of the network was installed last week at the Ars Electronica exhibition in the Austrian city of Linz. Here, a three-dimensional hypermedia space and soundstage was created, where people could exchange information by phone, modem and television.
You're a piazza junkie.
Yes, that's true.
Glaube ich nicht.
Warum nicht?
Okay, who else is there? Who wants to speak?
Steve,
Yeah?
do you like the Piazza Virtuosa?
It's strange.
People walking on the square can listen to telephone conversations broadcast on speakers over their heads, or they can watch incoming messages on the video screen, and they can return communication verbally.
But last time I watched the last one in Frankfurt with some friends, and we tried to connect, we tried to get into the thing, but there's so many people called up. But the thing is, they had certain conversations to talk about and certain topics. So why don't you decide what you want to talk about instead of me?
As a person moves across the wall space of the Piazza Virtuale, sensors in the floor trace the movement and represent it on the screen. All this can be seen by people communicating via their computers, for whom the person in the piazza is another icon on the screen.
Don't be shy.
So, you're welcome to the piazza. My name is Nani Balestrini. Ciao, Nani.
Hallo?
To see the people coming in and navigating in this space, and that somehow a social system is starting to evolve, the relationship between the people is starting to evolve, some kind of that rules begin to develop in between the people. The communication itself creates the environment in which it then happens. Aha, jetzt kommt schon ein paar. Hallo?
Hallo?
Ja, habt ihr mich
Hallo?
gehört?
Ja, nochmal dich.
Spitze, wer bist du denn?
Ja, jetzt ist es.
Ja, Christian. Hi, Matthias.
Ach, bitte?
Ja.
Ja, du hast es geschafft. Oh Gott, egal wer du bist. Hallo, jetzt können wir uns gut erkennen.
Ja.
Aha. Welcher Profi bin ich denn? Ja, das ist eine gute Frage. Who is who?
Okay. Advertisement is everywhere now. So, in 95, 96 the group dissolved for many reasons, and each of us was following different paths into a commercial world, into art world. I personally continued Ponton-Lab as an internet company, full-service internet company. One of our main projects was we were doing the official website of Germany for 10 years for the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Germany. It was quite interesting, a lot of politics and so on. And eventually, after working like 30 years with the internet, I was really fed up in 2010, quit my own company and continued to work as a solo artist or whatever, doing a lot of stuff, building up that company for my father's work. Very interesting stuff in itself. My father was working on algorithmic art in the 50s and 60s, besides being an architecture photographer, and it's very interesting, especially at this time, because people are looking more into generative art now, and what he did was basically the beginning of that with a photographic medium. Maybe I show you some little bit. Oh no, I don't do that because it's endless.
You don't have to show it.
Okay, I just show you the rhythmograms, which they are. Interesting keyboard here. So, This is actually an interview I did with Annika about Annika Meyer, who's running a gallery in Berlin, expanded.art, doing a lot of NFT stuff and generative art. And behind me you see here the machine my father built in the 50s to do this generative photography stuff. He called that rhythmograms, and this is this here. It's this kind of huh?
Sorry, that's Gloria on the Zoom.
So he developed, it's basically called Lissajous figures in physics. It's if you send pendulum movements with a mirror on an XY plane, you get this kind of graphics, and he worked on that for about 12 years. It's this kind of stuff which uses a lot of photographic technique, like solarization. This is the machine he built. It has 4 pendula. Here you see my father in the 50s, 60s. And we still have this machine in the Institute, so if you ever come to Wolfsburg, make an appointment and I show you everything. And it's this kind of graphics that he developed for a school in Wolfenbüttel. And the interesting thing is, it's generative. So basically you have, you program an analog computer with a certain formula, which of course is translated into pendulum movements. And eventually we press a button and the whole thing plays out in about 10 minutes, and the movement of the light is recorded on a photo plate. And this is how it basically works. And it's generative in a way that it shows something that doesn't exist before, and that makes it so interesting also philosophically, because before in photography, of course, you have an object, you have the lens, and you have the medium, and here you have something which doesn't exist, but it's still recorded on a photographic medium. Yeah, maybe this is interesting. This is the film. How can I go here? That's enough. That is the machine, the rhythmograph. So you see 4 pendulums moving. Their movement gets translated on a movement of a mirror, and the mirror deflects a point of light on the photo plate. And this is like the electromechanical control of all the pendulums, so that you can really repeat you can work iteratively and really improve on what you see before by just changing the parameters. As you see, it's a electromechanical work of wonder. He built it himself, had a huge workshop, and it took about 12 years to construct this machine.
And it still works?
Yeah, it still works. I mean, we need to readjust it and so on, but basically it still works. All the parts are there, and the big pendulum is 6 meters long, so it's basically from here to there. And when I was 20, I rebuilt this machine electronically, so I said, well, I can do it better, and so I used Opera, and I'm good in electronics, so I built basically an analog computer simulating what he did with pendulums, and it really works, and it's also still there. And sometimes I do some stuff with it. It's said that part of this machine are from German submarines, because after the Second World War everything was scrapped, and you could buy high quality mechanics on scrap yards. And so,
And I must say we had the exhibition of his
right,
drawings at Museum of Modern Contemporary Art in Rijeka,
yes.
In the frame of Mediascape in 2014.
It was 14,
It was 14, and then you brought also this pendulum a little bit to show how
yeah. And we also showed that in Zagreb, in the Technical Museum.
Yes, after that, the Technical Museum, so it was really nice to present it. Okay, anybody have a question?
Okay, just let me say a few words about what I'm going to show now in tonight. So tonight there will be a presentation of a project of mine called Pentatonic Permutations at the Astronomical Center. Since the old days of Heteroresonance Company, I'm following a project of a sound sculpture that translates sunlight into music. And this project kind of stopped when the group stopped, but I'm still working on the sonification of that idea. And I've done it now, and since about a dozen years, I'm doing regular performances of this pentatonic permutation, mainly in churches in Berlin, but also all over the world, wherever I do presentations. And yeah, you can hear about an hour of these pentatonic permutations tonight. It's a solo piano composition that is running since the Big Bang, so 13.799 billion years ago the composition started, and it will continue another 16 trillion years. The idea is that all possible permutations of a certain pentatonic systems are played, one after the other, and it's melodies of 16 seconds that tag each moment of time. So I call that the soundtrack of the universe. And I set up a website, and this website transmits the piano sound to your mobile or to your computer, also the program that runs it, and everybody listening to this pentatonic permutation listens to the same moment of that composition. So it's like a radio actually, without being connected. It works like it's synchronized to UTC on the local computer, to Universal Time Coordinated, which is exact to a fraction of a second, because all computers need to be synchronized. And so without an internet connection, you could even run this composition. And I just started now for a moment that you listen to what it sounds like. Let's see if it works. So this number here is the number of seconds since the Big Bang. It's 4.35 10 power 17 seconds. And I show that number here. And each second a new note is being played, and it's a sequence of 16 notes. And this is of course UTC, so we need that common time to synchronize everything.
So that means the note is the same on whoever is the
right,
but then you could decide the reverb yourself.
No, at this moment is like a radio broadcast. But because each moment of time is tagged with a unique melody, one of the next projects will be to build a time machine. So I could go back and forth in time and play the melodies, let's say, of the moment of my birth, or of beginning of World War II, or whatever, or until the last permutation is played. And I started streaming now because it's a little bit tricky technology. And I'm just using a standard stream, which is of course 30 seconds delayed because of the buffering in these systems. So this is a machine in my home, and it's encoded into a digital stream and going via a server in the US all over the world, and I just set it up because it's actually easier to stream than to use that complicated JavaScript system, which, for example, the handy goes off after 3 minutes or something, and this doesn't happen if you use streaming. Okay, I invite you to come tonight, 9 o'clock at the Astronomical Center. I give a short introduction into this kind of algorithmic music background, my ideas, and for about 10 minutes, and after that we listen to the music for 45 minutes. Thank you.